Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the memoir from U.S. Senator John Kennedy, How to Test Negative for Stupid. We're not just, reviewing it. We're going to trace the path of his life, his career, and really look for those key anecdotes that shaped his whole worldview.
It's a great way to approach it because he lays his philosophy out right on page 1. His motto is basically, I have the right to remain silent, but not the ability.
Right.
And that's really what we're looking at here. A whole career built on saying the quiet part out loud, whether he's a kid in a small town or in a Senate hearing.
And he completely owns it. He says flat out he doesn't worry about what people think of him. Well, except dogs. He makes an exception for dogs.
He does. And he believes if he's doing his job right, he's making what he calls the right people mad.
Exactly. But what's so interesting in the book is that this isn't some brand he cooked up for Washington.
No, not at all. It's rooted way back in his childhood in rural Louisiana. These stories really show you where that instinct to confront things head on comes from.
Okay, so let's start there. Zachary, Louisiana. He paints this picture of a town so small, he jokes they had to take turns being the town drunk.
A very provincial place. But his parents put this huge emphasis on education. It's pretty amazing, actually. The 4 Kennedy brothers, between them, have 9 college degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, so that drive was there from the beginning.
And speaking of drive, he learned a huge lesson about conflict in high school. There was this bully, a kid named Billy, who just kept harassing him, promising to fight him.
Right. And the moment of truth comes, and Kennedy just snaps. He hits Billy first, twice.
And he says he was so terrified after he actually threw up.
Yeah.
But, he didn't have a single mark on him.
And he walked away with 2 lessons that basically defined his career. 1, hit the other guy first.
And the second one.
The second, and this is the big one, is that weakness invites the wolves.
That feels like the foundation for everything that follows. I mean, whether he's facing a politician or a CEO, it's about establishing strength right away.
Absolutely. So from there, he goes on this academic journey, starts at Louisiana Tech, then transfers to Vanderbilt, and that's his first real culture shock.
The prep school kids.
Yeah, the prep school kids. Coming from Zachary, he thought prep school was like a military academy for juvenile delinquents.
It's a funny detail that shows how his world was just starting to open up. Then he heads to the University of Virginia School of Law.
He says he didn't like it at first, but his grades were top-notch. Good enough for the Virginia Law Review.
Which leads to one of the all-time great law school horror stories.
Oh, the UCC exam.
Yes. So he takes this notoriously hard class, Uniform Commercial Code, but he takes it pass-fail, so he barely studies.
A classic law student move.
Right. So day after this brutal exam, he's in the men's room, sees a friend, and just starts venting loudly about how the class sucked and Professor Blank was a complete asshole.
You can see this coming a mile away.
A stall door opens.
And out walks Professor Blank. Of course.
Mortifying. But what's so telling is his reaction to that whole stress. He doesn't retreat. He decides to seek out an even bigger academic challenge.
Exactly. He applies to Oxford, to Magdalen College for a Bachelor of Civil Law. And we should be clear, the BCL is a seriously rigorous graduate degree. This is not undergrad.
No, and it sounds just awful, honestly. He talks about waking up to ice in his water glass, sleeping under 4 blankets.
And the workload. His tutor, Sir John Morris, was assigning 500 pages of dense, unedited case law a week.
To get through that and earn first-class honors and alpha, that just shows you the level of drive he has.
So he takes all that, the toughness from the playground, the academic rigor, and he's set for a big law firm career. But then, in 1987, the phone rings.
Governor Buddy Roemer.
Yep, offering him a job as special counsel, and just like that, he's in politics.
And he describes it as stepping from a quiet law firm into a circus without a tent.
Well, you have to remember what Louisiana politics was like back then. He contrasts the warning he got about D.C., that they'd unplug your life support to charge their cell phone,
Right.
with the reality of Louisiana under Governor Edwin Edwards.
The famous quote.
The famous quote. The only way I can lose this election is if I'm caught in bed with either a dead girl or a live boy.
I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. That's the world he walked into, and he admits he was green as a gourd.
He shares this one story about a Senator Greg Tarver. Tarver promises him a yes vote, then votes no.
So Kennedy confronts him.
And Tarver just points to a lobbyist in a white suit and says, I voted no because he gave me money to do it.
He adds that he thinks the guy was kidding.
Mostly.
Mostly. That just captures the environment perfectly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just policy, it was personal. He got into this long, bitter feud with Senator Mike Foster. Romer made Kennedy his spear catcher on that one.
And it got heated. At one point, Foster criticized him publicly, and Kennedy was ready to physically fight him right there. Another senator had to step in and pull them apart.
There's that high school lesson again. Weakness invites the wolves.
Exactly. But beyond the fights, he also details these two direct attempts at corruption.
The first was a dentist who wanted his license back.
Right. And he basically offers to sign the lease on Kennedy's new office in exchange for it. The second was an oil guy offering him what's called an overriding royalty.
Which is, just to clarify, basically a cut of the profits from an oil well, free and clear. A passive payment.
Essentially a bribe for leasing state land. And Kennedy shut them both down flat. That time in Baton Rouge really cemented his identity as this outsider fighting the system.
So, after surviving that, he makes a decision his wife thinks is crazy. He decides to manage Romer's comeback campaign in 1995.
Which gave us another great story, this time from a single-engine plane that was about to make an emergency landing.
Oh, this is incredible. Romer, in the middle of this crisis, asks Kennedy to get his insulin DOP kit.
And Kennedy just snacks back, "Buddy, I don't give a function about your DOP kit. Get it yourself. I'm getting off this bag of bolts."
Unfiltered candor under pressure.
The definition of it. So Romer loses, but then, in a twist, Kennedy's old rival Mike Foster becomes governor and appoints him Secretary of Revenue.
The state's tax collector.
And Kennedy decides his management style has to be that of a grizzly. He starts firing people who aren't doing their jobs, and word gets out fast that the new guy is a crazy son of a bitch.
And it worked. It let him focus on these big tax evasion cases. He went after a powerful businessman claiming he lived in Texas, another guy using an Indian reservation to dodge cigarette taxes.
And he says, they both paid up and still hate me like the devil hates holy water.
But the best thing he did in that job, I think, was the unclaimed property initiative.
Oh, absolutely. The state was sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars that belonged to people.
Instead of just letting it sit there, he decided to actively find the owners and give it back, something like $400 million.
They even found money owed to Archie Manning and John Goodman.
My favorite story is the widow who was owed over $1 million. She shows up to get the check, but she brings her 20 nieces and nephews with her.
Who he notes were all ready to help her spend it. It's just a fantastic story of government actually working for people.
Alongside all this, he starts this decades-long habit of substitute teaching in public schools.
Yeah, starting in 2003, he called it his real education. He saw it all, no lesson plans, leaking roofs, you name it.
You get a discipline trick where he'd make a misbehaving kid sit and stare at a blank wall.
Figured it would bore him to death and he'd never want to do it again. But that grassroots view really shaped his politics later on.
So his ambition turns to the federal level. He runs for the Senate twice as a Democrat and loses. He eventually switches parties, saying the Democrats had become, in his words, utter nutters.
Which sets up the 2016 race, the GOAT rodeo, as he calls it.
A Louisiana jungle primary. For anyone who doesn't know, that means everyone runs together, one big pile, top two go to a runoff.
And that's how you end up with a final debate stage that includes David Duke, the former Klansman.
Just a surreal situation. But Kennedy's strategy was brilliant. He went back to that hit them first idea.
He looked up Duke's federal prisoner number.
And for the entire debate, he refused to use Duke's name. He just called him federal prisoner number 123456778.
Completely threw him off his game. Kennedy wins, and he's off to Washington,
where he arrives just in time for the Russia collusion narrative to explode into what he called a manic frenzy. He was skeptical from the start.
And his candor immediately starts rubbing people the wrong way, even in his own party. An older Republican senator pulls him aside in a meeting and tells him not to work over Republican witnesses.
Don't break the tribal rules, a rule he clearly decided to ignore.
Which brings us to his most famous moments where he uses these blunt, homespun analogies, like in the banking committee hearing with the credit reporting company.
The one that lost data for 145 million people.
But still got a huge contract from the IRS.
And Kennedy just looks at them and says, "You realize, to many Americans right now, that looks like we're giving Lindsay Lohan the keys to the minibar."
It's perfect. It takes this complicated corporate failure and makes the absurdity of it crystal clear to everyone.
That style also led to this very strange visit to the Biden White House in 2021. Kennedy was the only Republican senator invited to a bill signing.
even though he was constantly criticizing the administration.
Right. So the president's staff is trying to get him in and out for a quick photo op, but Kennedy stalls. He forces a 40-minute conversation.
How?
He just kept asking Biden about his dog, Major, who'd been biting Secret Service agents, and about his Corvette.
That's brilliant.
He even got a tour of the cabinet room out of it. He said you could just see the anger on the faces of Biden's staff. He refused to be a prop.
And he uses that same pointed style in confirmation hearings to, as he says, make a point.
He did it with the nominee, Saul Omarova, asking her about her past in the Communist Party by opening with, "I don't know whether to call you professor or comrade."
That questioning was a huge reason her nomination was withdrawn. He did something similar with Dr. Fauci.
Asking if the WHO would fall out of President Xi's pocket if you shook him upside down.
But he lands on this really important philosophical point. In the hearings for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, he warns against this endless cycle of political retribution.
Yeah, he says politicizing the Department of Justice is stupid because it leads to chaos, the kind you see in countries where the Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat.
And he urged them to resist the urge for payback. He says 2 wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. It's this warning that while he'll fight, there has to be a line. You have to preserve the rule of law.
So after all this, what's the big takeaway for you? Seems like Kennedy's whole career, from Zachary to D.C., is built on this one core belief: that candor is a mighty weapon. He says the quiet part out loud to force people to pay attention.
I think so. And the material really leaves you with a big question. In a world where it's so hard to tell fact from fiction, where institutional trust is so low, is just saying the quiet part out loud enough to actually fix things? Or does that kind of candor, no matter how entertaining, just become another part of the political circus?
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.